Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Emily Lefevers from the Miami University Alumni Association. We have a special co-presentation today with Miami Women. Miami Women empowers women, alumni, faculty, staff, and students to make connections to support opportunities that mentor, advance, and invest in the future of Miami University. And I want to give a warm welcome to our Miami Women Giving Circle members who are watching with us today. And welcome to all of you that are joining us as well. I'm so excited to be joined by Miami alumna Rose Lounsbury, class of 2008. Rose got serious about decluttering her excess stuff over 10 years ago and hasn't stopped since. She has given dozens of speeches about simplicity, including a 2018 TEDx talk that has over 500,000 views. She is the author of the Amazon's best-selling book, Less Minimalism for Real, and is passionate about helping women use the power of less to find more peace, productivity, and open spaces in their lives. When she's not speaking, Rose spends her time writing, coaching her clients and online students to the freedom of open spaces and soaking up the moments with her husband and wild triplets in lovely Dayton, Ohio. Rose's advice has been featured widely, and we are excited to have her live with us today. So just a quick reminder before we get started that live viewers can submit questions throughout the hour by using the Ask a Question button below the video. Rose will also be giving you a couple prompts throughout just to answer, so you can also respond to these questions that Rose will ask during the broadcast, and I will read them out loud to her. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you so much, Emily. I am so thrilled to be here with you all talking about how to simplify your schedule so that you can create more joy in your life. So we are going to get started right away here. And I want to start by asking you a question. And this is actually the same question written two different ways. So whichever way resonates more with you is how I want you to answer. And you can answer it in that question box. But the question is, why do you want to simplify your schedule? Another way to put that would be, if your schedule was simpler, how would your life be different? So if you think about your life now, currently, what's your schedule like? Does it feel hectic? Does it feel hairy? Do you feel like you're never getting everything done? So why do you want to simplify it? How would your life be different if it was simpler? And Emily is going to read some of those out to us once we get some answers coming in. But really think about this. And even if you don't type anything in the question box, I think there's probably a reason that you signed up for this webinar today. And that reason that you signed up, that this appealed to you, probably relates to that why, to that reason behind why a simpler schedule would appeal to you, what your life could be like if it was a little bit simpler. So Emily, if you do get any responses, you can kind of let me know. And if people just want to think about that on their own, that is all right as well.
So one that we already got that came in, Vanessa said less stress.
Yeah,
I think that might be a reoccurring theme.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, when we think of the stress in our lives, a lot of times it's related to our schedule. We feel like we're going back to back. We're doing lots of things, especially as professional women, and especially if you might have some children at home or pets at home. There's just a lot to be done, and our schedules can feel very stressful.
Yeah, Chuck said the same thing, that there would be less anxiety and less stress. So I think that will definitely be the theme that people are putting in. We have a lot more that came in. So to feel more calm and peaceful, life seems hectic and moving too quickly. I want to feel like I am done with my to-do list and I can relax without guilt and read and watch TV. I wouldn't be worried about getting up in the morning and not knowing what is going on for that day. Yeah, I really like the feel like I'm done and can relax and watch TV and read without being like, I should be XYZ, cleaning the bathroom, vacuuming my floors, doing this.
Yeah, because that's often the struggle, right? When we have a really hectic schedule, when we do have time to relax, often we feel guilty about it, or we feel like we can't relax, or if we're trying to relax, what's going through our minds are all the things that we're not doing. And so even though we might look like we're on the couch reading a book, or we look like we're on the couch watching TV, we're actually sitting there ruminating about all the things that are not being done. So I think from those answers, and thank you all for sharing, I think we realize that there's a lot of really important reasons to simplify our schedules, and it relates to our quality of life. It relates to our mental well-being. So some of the things that we're going to learn today are going to directly address that. So things that we're going to cover today, we'll talk about the why of time simplicity, the 3 universal time truths that will help you reframe your time mindset and feel more in control of your time. And we're going to end with how you could use some time blocking strategies to create more intentional and meaningful schedules. Well, let's dig right into the why of time simplicity. I started off by asking you why you came here today. Why do you want to simplify your schedule? And I think when we talk about simplifying our time, we need to ask that question again, like, why do we do this? And I think to start with, I want to give you a couple disclaimers. And these might excite you or not excite you, depending on how you look at things. But today, I am not going to tell you how to get everything done. And I'm also not going to tell you how to get more done in less time. And if you're like me, you've probably sat through a fair number of time management presentations that tried to do this. They said, we have the system, we have the answer, we have the checklist, we have the color coding that's going to help you get every single thing on your list done. Or if you follow our system and you use our apps, you're going to be getting more done in less time. We're going to make you more productive. And while there's nothing really wrong with wanting to be more productive, I think that the cultural myth of let's get everything done or let's try to continually get more done in less time is actually rather dangerous. I think it's a bit like alchemy or the fountain of youth, things that people really want to believe are true. We really want to believe that we can get everything done. Even someone said, I'd love to get my whole to-do list done. Wouldn't that be great if you could really get your whole to-do list done? And one of the things I often tell people is, there's only one day in our lives that our to-do list will be 0, the day we die. Other than that day, it's going to have things on it. And so what I try to help people realize is that we can become at peace with knowing that there are probably more things available and more possibilities we could do than we ever really can do. And so this belief that we can always get it all done or that we should be getting it all done, it's actually really dangerous and harmful. It would be kind of like seeking the fountain of youth or spending your entire life trying to turn lead into gold. Now, why is that? Because I believe that if we believe we think we can get everything done or we're continually striving to get more done in less time, these are fool's errands. Think about it. Let's say you can accomplish 5 things in an hour. Awesome. But then you might say, well, maybe I could do 10 things in an hour. Maybe I could do 15 or 20 or 25. There's no end to that, right? Productivity is a race without an end. You can continually try to do more and more and more. And so it can be a bit of a fool's errand because there's no actual destination that we ever arrive at. And I also think even more importantly, it often makes us think that we're failures. When I asked you that question at the beginning, many of you talked about the stress or the anxieties or the feelings of guilt that we have. And I believe that those exist because it feeds this belief that we are not enough and that if somehow we did more, we would be more. We would be more worthy if we were getting more things done. And so we kind of tie our productivity to our self-worth and our value, which is untrue and it is harmful. We are all more valuable than what we produce. And I share that with you because I want you to realize really clearly at the start of this presentation, this might be very different than other time management presentations you've heard, because I do not believe in productivity for productivity's sake. Not for humans anyway, right? This is Rosie the Robot. If you're a child of the 80s and 90s like me, you watch the Jetsons. Rosie the Robot, we can believe in productivity for productivity's sake for her. She is a robot. I want my computer or my smartphone to be as productive as it possibly can be. But those are machines and we are people. And me, Rosie the human, is worth more than the value of what I can produce. And I think when we start to recognize that we are inherently valuable regardless of how much we do or not do, it really shifts the way that we look at time management, because we start to separate our value from the things that we're doing and from the tasks that we're doing every day. However, I do believe in productivity. I am what I consider a rather productive person, but I believe in it for these reasons only. I believe in productivity for the sake of living your healthiest, most meaningful, and most fun life. Productivity can help us live happier, healthier, more meaningful, and enjoyable lives, which is a lot of the things you said at the beginning. I would feel less stressed, meaning you'd probably be having more fun or doing more things that felt meaningful, maybe spending more time with your family, maybe having time to go for a walk or make a really good meal from scratch. So productivity does help us, but it helps us for these reasons. Productivity in and of itself is not actually that helpful. That's hustle culture, the hustle and grind culture. And I'm actually a really strong opponent of that type of culture because I don't think it's beneficial to humans. So I want you to think back to that why that you shared with us. There's likely a very big reason that you want to simplify your schedule, and it goes way beyond just getting things done. Getting things done might be the first thing that we see. That's like the tip of the iceberg. Well, if I simplified my schedule, I would get more done. Okay, but what does that really mean about your life? If you were getting more done or getting important things done, would you feel more satisfied with your work or with your relationships or with your family? And that's really the reason that we want to simplify schedules. And it's related usually to our purpose in life, to the greater reason that we're here. We're all here for some reason. We have some message that we are here to share, some way that we are meant to contribute to the world. And when we simplify our schedules, it actually creates space for us to do that better. So let's take a look right now at how we perceive time. And one of the things I'm realizing as I'm doing the slide presentation is that when my slides imported, they didn't import with the motions. So some of my slides are going to have the answers to my questions on them. And so that's okay. So we're just going to go with it. So my question that I was going to ask you, but you see the answer, and that's all good, is what percentage of Americans feel that they do not have enough time to do what they want to do? And this was a Gallup lifestyle poll. They found that about half of us feel we simply don't have enough time to do what we want to do. And I would say that that's probably pretty accurate for most of the people I talk to. We say we don't have enough time for this and we don't have enough time for that. And which of the following factors affects Americans' perception of how much time they have available? And if you look at employment, gender, age, children, it is all of those factors. Those affect how we perceive time, because time truly is a perception. Everyone gets the same amount, right? There's 24 hours for everybody, but it's how we perceive it that matters. Because time actually, if we want to get real philosophical, it's not a real thing. It's a perception that we have created, and it's a way that we run the structures and systems in our lives, but it's something we've kind of made up and we all get the same amount of it. But these factors affect how much we perceive we have available. And because I'm sort of a nerd, I dug into that poll because I was really curious what the results actually showed. And it shows here that overall, right, about half of us think we have enough time and half of us think we don't. But when you look at it along gender and age lines, you really start to see some differences. So if you look at just male and female genders, about 56% of men and 49% of women feel that they do have enough time. So women typically feel that we have less time available than men. I really was interested when we overlaid gender and age. So if you skip down to that middle one, males ages 18 to 49, about 52% of them feel they have enough time. Once you get to 50 plus, 61% of them feel they have enough time. But the real difference for me was women of that same age, women 18 to 49, 39%. So of women my age, 39% of us feel we have enough time compared to 52% of men my age. But what's really interesting is once women get to 50 and above, it really evens out. Women, 59%, men, 61% of the same age feel that they have enough time. Another interesting one for me was looking at children. If you have children under the age of 18, of which I have 3, most of them feel they don't have enough time. 58% feel they don't have enough time. And also, if you look at people who are working versus not working, not a surprise that working people, only 39% say they have enough time, and 68% of non-working people feel that they do. So when I look at this, it actually is rather relieving for me because I'm a female, aged 41, with 3 children under 18, and I work full time. And so there's a reason that someone like me might feel at this stage and area of my life that I have less time than others. So maybe that is helpful for some of you as well. So let's talk about the 3 universal time truths that I want to share with you today. And the greatest time truth that I ever learned was from my sister, Johanna. This is my sister. I'm going to tell you a story about her. When she was in her early 20s, she got a job at this rather sketchy diet pill company. She had struggled with her weight. She had gone to the company. She had taken the diet pills and she had lost a bunch of weight. They said, "Hey, would you like to work for us as a consultant?" Because lo and behold, the pills themselves were not that magical. You had to have a consultant work with you to talk about healthy eating and exercise and all sorts of things. And so she's, 21, 22 years old. She says, "Sure, I'll work, at this place as a consultant." And so she starts counseling mostly other women on weight loss. And I remember one day I was talking to her on the phone and she was so angry. And she said, "All of these women, they just tell me I don't have time to go for a walk. I don't have time to make a healthy lunch. I don't have time to do a meal plan. And I'm just so mad because they're lying." And I thought, Joe, that's probably true. These ladies are busy. Like, they're not lying to you. That's kind of harsh. And she said, "No, they're lying because it's not that they don't have enough time. It's that they just don't want to." And I thought, there's actually some truth here, because the truth of the matter is, and I'm sure the women she was talking to were very busy, had competing priorities in their lives like all of us do. But the truth of the matter is, because time is a great equalizer and we all get the same 24 hours a day, we always have enough time to do exactly what we want to do. No one is getting more time than anyone else. You, me, the King of England, and the person who collects my recycling every week get 24 hours a day. Nobody gets more, nobody gets less. Thus, we always have enough time to do exactly what we want to do because we're all given the exact same amount of time. And I realized that this might be a rather challenging truth for us to accept. I remember when I taught this class once in person, I had a young woman in the class, and she was a young lawyer. She was engaged. And when I said this line, she said, "Whoa, hold on here. My boyfriend the other day, he told me, you know what? You don't have a time problem. You have a priorities problem." And I first of all thought that was a very brave boyfriend to say this to his girlfriend. But I think she was starting to have that aha realization was, we want to always blame our struggle on not enough time, but really often what that reflects is a struggle with priorities, right? We have enough time, but what we may not have done is actually prioritize the time to put our most important things first. And you may have experienced this before in your life. I know November 30th of this year, I had the most radical realignment of my priorities that I've ever had in my life. It was the day that my dad passed away unexpectedly. Suddenly, everything on my calendar did not matter. And there was a much higher priority. And that lasted for several weeks, where being with my family, taking care of myself, being with loved ones was by far the highest priority over any other priority on my calendar. I didn't suddenly have more time to hang out with my family, but it was a greater priority. And so I use that time that way. Now, we do not need to experience traumatic loss to prioritize our time, but often it's those shocking moments. And maybe you can think of a moment like that in your life. It's those big moments that make us realize what really matters and what doesn't. And truly, that's available to us all the time. We can always prioritize our time based on what really matters, because we always have enough time to do exactly what we want to do. So let's talk about the second time truth, which is you're always doing something. That's true. Right now, you're listening to me talk about schedules and time. You were sleeping probably last night. You probably ate breakfast. We're always doing something in our lives. Like, there's never a moment that we're not doing something while we're alive on earth, which brings us to the third time truth, which I call kind of the truth bomb, which is you're always doing exactly what you want to do. If we accept the first two, which is we always have enough time to do exactly what we want to do, and we're always doing something, therefore it follows logically that we're always doing exactly what we want to do. There's nothing you want to do more in your life right now than listen to me talk about simplifying your schedule. And I'm extremely honored by that, by the way. Because here's the truth. If you wanted to do something, if something else was a higher priority for you right now, you would be doing that. And what I think is really important about these time truths is that they move us from time victim to time ownership. We often feel that we're the victims of time. I don't have enough time for this. I don't have enough time for that. But truly, we are the owners of our time. And in other words, we're like He-Man. Again, I'm just loving the child of the 80s and 90s cartoons. We have the power. We have the control over our time, and we've always had it. Even if we perceive our time differently now in a stage of life where you may have a full-time job, you may have children under 18, you may have more household responsibilities than you had earlier in your life, or you may have later in your life. We are still in control of the time we have and the way we spend it. So I want to share a few helpful metaphors that have helped me think about time in a healthier way. $24, I call it the great equalizer. I sometimes think of every morning when I wake up, as if someone handed me 24 $1 bills. And that's handed to me, you, my neighbors, the president of the United States, and people living in poverty. We're all getting $24, 24 hours of time. And so it's really a great equalizer. And the reason that it's a great equalizer is because we all have to spend it. Each dollar is an hour of our time. We have to spend it. We can't save it. We can't invest it. We can't put it in a mayonnaise jar under the mattress. We're all given the same amount of time. So it's kind of this thing that actually, and it's the most precious thing, by the way. As we all know, our time is the most precious commodity we have, and we're given the same amount as everybody else. I also can sometimes think of it as an Amazon delivery, which could be a precious gift. Every morning, these 24 hours of life show up on our doorsteps. And if I get an exciting Amazon delivery, I don't leave it on the doorstep. I bring it in, I open it up, I'm excited about it. I don't try to like squish it or stuff it or wish it wasn't there. So if we think of time as a great gift that we're given every day, I find that helpful. And another way I've conceptualized time is to think of it like a significant other. And I know many of us are familiar with qualities of toxic relationship. And I think if we thought of time as a relationship, we might realize that maybe we're engaged in a toxic relationship where we say, there's never enough of you. We try to control it. We want to know where it is at all times. We don't respect it. We're not grateful for the things that it does for us. And I think I find myself personally engaged in some of those toxic thoughts in a relationship to time. What would a healthier relationship with time look like? Would it be more gratitude? Would it be more appreciation? Would it be more trusting, like the things that happen in a good relationship? So I just like to share those with you. I was an English major, so metaphors are my jam. But how do we do this? And this is where this presentation might go into areas that you're more familiar with when it comes to time management. I'm going to talk about specific strategies or ways that you could simplify your schedule and simplify your time. But the reason that I saved this till this far into the presentation is because I think that if we immediately go to strategies and lists and tools without first addressing our perceptions of time and maybe how we are interacting with time as a time victim versus a time owner, I think we actually aren't, these things are not that helpful. So I'm going to ask you to really think about, how do you perceive time? How do you interact with time? Could you change your relationship with time by shifting your perspective toward it? And all of that is really going to help you with the ways that we can actually organize our time. So these are the 3 steps that I recommend if you wanted to simplify your schedule in a practical sense. And the first step is minimize. The second step is organize. And the third step is to let go. So let's talk about each of those individually. The first one is to minimize your commitments. And my first step to minimizing the commitments is what I talked about a little earlier, which is getting really clear on your priorities or values. So I would love to know in the question box, what are 3 things that are high priorities or values for you? And I think Emily is going to pop that up in a banner along the bottom. And I'd love for you to share, what are 3 things that are high priorities or values for you? If someone asked you, what do you value? What's important to you? What would be 3 of the top things that you would say? So I'd love you to put that in the question box. And Emily, if you do get some answers, you're welcome to just pop in here and let me know what they are. So one of the things that we do when we get clear on our priorities or values is it allows us to do the next 2 things. And this is actually how we create more free time in our lives, is we say no, or no's slightly softer cousin, not now. Once you know what your priorities are, I'll just use the example of when my father passed away unexpectedly. Again, it's not that that I had more time than I had before, but I was suddenly able to say no to a lot of things that I probably would not have said no to beforehand. And so when I am able to say no to things, it allows me to say yes to other things. Not now is another thing that you can say. Let's say that your health is a high priority for you, which means maybe you need to say no to answering emails after 8 p.m. Because that's the time that you're going to go to a yoga class or a spin class. Not now is something that we can say to things that aren't going to work for us today, but they might be working for us later. So one of the things that I've always done, I teach some online courses, but I never teach them in the summer because summer with 3 kids under 18 is not a good time for me to teach an online course. So I say, you know what? And if people approach me to do things in the summer, a lot of times I'll be like, not now. Come back to me in the fall, and that will be a better time. So minimizing your commitments is really important. If you feel like your schedule is hectic, harried, and stuffed, that's an indication that it's time to prioritize what's high priority or value for you. And then that means other things that aren't in those maybe top 3 are going to need probably a no or a not now, which is going to allow you space to focus on those top 3.
So we did get a few that have come in.
Yeah.
So someone said their number 1 is kids, husband, family. Their number 2 is friends. And their number 3 is health. Someone else said creative endeavors, time with loved ones, and self-growth. And then the third one that came in was family time, feeling accomplished at work, and taking care of myself.
Beautiful. Those are really thoughtful answers, by the way. Thank you for sharing those. And so one of the things that I would do is I would take those priorities and values and kind of overlay them against your current schedule. If a high priority item is time with family and friends or loved ones, time with kids, is there space for that in your schedule right now or not? And if there's not, what can you say no or not now to allow space for those things to have presence in your life? So once we've minimized, right, we've said no or not now to things that we just don't have the space for right now, we can organize what's left. And I'm going to talk about 3 strategies that might be familiar to you or maybe not that are helpful for organizing the remaining things. But I really recommend that you don't try these until you've practiced some no and not now so that you minimize your commitments. Because I used to think that scheduling would save me, that if I just scheduled and organized it and it was color coded and it was absolutely perfect, that would allow me to get everything done. And that is, again, that fool's errand that I was going on, that I just kept packing the schedule with more and more and just feeling more hectic and stressed. So it's really important that you minimize first. And that's actually the same steps that I take to organizing a closet. Minimize what's in the closet first. Otherwise, you're just organizing the cluttered stuff in the closet. So minimize and declutter and let go. Organize what's left. It's the same process with time. Minimize your commitments and then organize what's left. So let's talk about these 3 different things. Time blocking is something that you might be familiar with. It's simply the idea that we look at our day, we look at our hours, our $24, and we organize it into blocks of time, and we give the blocks of time a job. And this is my preferred way to organize my time versus a to-do list. The problem with a to-do list is that none of those to-dos are actually assigned blocks of time in our day. This is an example that I found online. You can see this person blocks off 8 to 9 a.m. for meetings. And then some days they have certain tasks they work on from 9 to 11. That's probably like deep work. If you're familiar with maybe Cal Newport, he's a productivity expert. He talks about deep work. So those task blocks, those red blocks would be for some of those deeper tasks, working on projects, collaborating with colleagues, that sort of thing. Lunch, very important that we block lunch in our days. And then you can see the rest of the days are focused as well. There's like a deeper thinking time, a task time, and then there are times for meetings. What's wonderful about something like this is that many of us, and I have found this as well, we can get our entire days sucked up by meetings and email. And then we look at the end of the day, we're like, what did we do? I don't know, but I was busy all day. Well, if you found yourself in that situation, it's probably because you're not guarding your blocks of time, right? Time is precious. And if you want to have time and space to move forward on deeper, more important, or more meaningful work, it has to be given space in the calendar, because if we don't, other things are just going to come in and take up space. So this is how time blocking looks. And I always like to give a few disclaimers on time blocking because I'm a fan of time blocking, but I also recognize that nobody's schedule is going to look like that every single day. You can make the most beautiful time block schedule and it may not work out, and that's okay. Because what time blocking really does is it allows us to prioritize what's important. So setting boundaries around meetings and admin tasks, as you saw in there were boundaries around when people could meet with that person. Time for self-care, as one of you mentioned, that's a priority. If self-care is a priority, there should be a block of time where you take a walk or do whatever self-care looks like to you. But there should be a block of time in the day that is dedicated to that pursuit. Time for high priority deep work. So if you're writing something, if you're collaborating on a big project, something that's going to require you to think deeply, that deserves blocks of time in the day. And it's really okay. And there's a reason this is in bold. It's okay if your actual day doesn't 100% resemble your time block. You can block off the perfect schedule and then your child gets sick or your dog needs to go to the vet or a colleague is suddenly out on an emergency. This is life. Like, we can't control for that. That is going to happen. But what I encourage people to do is we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. When that happens, we realize time blocks are simply an intention. It's saying, this is how I intend to plan my time and spend my time today. I recognize fully that I can't control every factor in the universe. And so it may not happen that it actually looks that way, but I'm intending on it to go this way, which is very similar to making a map for a road trip. If you're taking a big road trip, which I actually am this summer, we are going all the way to British Columbia to Vancouver Island. It's a huge road trip all the way from Dayton to Vancouver Island in Canada. We have mapped this out. We have planned it, but you know what? It's probably not going to exactly look like that. We think we know how much we'll drive each day. We think we know how it's going to work out, but we can't control all the factors in the world. However, it's still worthwhile to make the map. It matters that we make the map, even if detours happen, because the map itself is our intention and it's our plan. So if you resist time blocking because you're like, well, my schedule's not going to look like that anyway, I encourage you to revisit that thought and realize my time block is my intention for the day. This is how I intend. I've got my priorities and my values on here. May not go exactly this way. That's okay. It's still worth it to make the intention. And this is great for kids too. So if you have children, this was made by my friend Megan. She is a former second grade teacher, which probably won't surprise you from this thing that she made. But she is one of those kids who, you may have one like this, who wants to know every single thing that's going to happen every single day. So on Monday, her daughter would be like, Mom, what are we doing Thursday morning? What are we doing Friday afternoon? What are we going to do Wednesday at 4 o'clock? And Megan got so annoyed with her daughter asking all these questions that she went and bought some poster boards, some markers, and some little index cards and made this time block schedule for the week for the summers with her daughter so that she could have some sanity and get work done. And what's beautiful about this is it very clearly lays out the intention for the day. And it's just organized by early morning, mid-morning, afternoon, late afternoon, and evening. And seeing as it's school out time right now, if you have young children, get yourself to Target, get some poster board, make one of these. Those little index cards she put on there, I think she attached with Velcro dots to the back so that Charlotte could have some say in certain days on what was going to happen. There were certain things that were non-negotiable, like the swim team time is a set time, but there were probably some things that Charlotte could have control over. And then once this was made for the week, both her mom and the daughter knew what was going to happen, and it relieved her having to answer all those questions all the time. This is time blocking. This is giving the hours of the day a set intention. And you could make, if you like this, make one of these for yourself. Early morning, mid-morning, afternoon, late afternoon, evening. You absolutely could make, some of you who are visual people, make this, make it colorful. It would be so fun for you. And it would give you a way to have an intentional plan for your day that might feel really helpful. The last one that I'm going to share with you here as far as time blocking goes is what I call the red pen and pencil trick. And this was something I stumbled across in my early work with clients with ADHD. I work with a lot of people who struggle with ADHD. And I had a client early on. She was in a graduate program and she was struggling to get her thesis done. And so if you have ADHD or know somebody who does, it's very overwhelming to do a big project like that. And she would say, I write down in my planner every day, work on thesis, but then I don't do it. And I said, okay, I think part of the problem is, and she said, part of the problem is I can't really differentiate between what I could do and what I have to do. So I end up going down rabbit holes all the time because I can't prioritize what's really important and what's just a possibility. And so I said, okay, what if we wrote down all the things you have to do in red? Because red pen is like the most permanent writing utensil, right? If it's in red pen, it feels like it's written in blood. And then the things that are possibilities could be written in pencil. Pencil's a softer medium. It could be erased. It could be moved to the next day. It's like, I could do this, but I don't have to. But I know the red things stick out. The red things must be done. And once she and I came across this, I realized I needed to do this too. And so I started time blocking my days using what I call the red pen and pencil trick. And it is for me an absolute, I did it today. I meant to bring it up to show you, but it's downstairs. But I do this every single day. I go through my calendar and I write down all my hard appointments in red pen on just a regular piece of notebook paper. So this was in red pen. This noon to 1 today is a hard appointment. When I say hard appointment, I mean things that happen on a certain day at a certain time, or they don't happen. This is David Allen, the productivity expert behind Getting Things Done, or the GTD system. He was the one who introduced me to that terminology. So hard appointments are the things that have to happen. And I leave approximate space in between my hard appointments, and I fill those in with soft appointments like checking email. Checking email can happen at really any time of my workday. Catching up on my social media feeds for my business, like that can happen at any time. Doing a load of laundry can happen at certain times. It doesn't have to be a hard appointment. It could be moved to the next day. And so then what I do during the day is I prioritize getting my red things done. I know the pencil ones can flex or move, and if I don't get them done, it doesn't matter. But I live my day by getting my red things done and letting my pencil things, I try to get some of them done, but I rarely get them all done. Maybe 2 or 3 days a whole year do I get all my pencil things done. So hopefully that's encouraging to some of you that I'm not getting everything done. No one's getting everything done. If you think someone's getting everything done or someone tells you they are, they're lying. Nobody's getting it all done. So this is just a really simple, low tech trick that I have found works for me and pretty much all of my clients. So feel free to start doing that if it sounds helpful. The next thing that I want to share away from time blocking is automating repeating tasks. So there are a lot of things that we do every day that we have to rethink. So I used to do laundry like this. I'd be like, okay, oh, who needs laundry? Oh my gosh, okay, we're running out of towels. When was the last time we washed the sheets? Let's wash the sheets. Oh, my son doesn't have socks. Let me do his laundry. And it was a sort of like catch as catch can approach. And then I realized, why don't I just automate whose laundry is done which day? And so this is our actual laundry schedule that has been in our house for years now. Monday is my son Orlando, and now he can do it himself because he's 13. Tuesday is adult colors, Wednesday adult whites, Thursday is my son Reese, Friday is delicates, Saturday towels and rags, Sunday is my daughter Mercedes, and repeat. And so all I have to think about, like today, I'm like, oh, it's Thursday, it's Reese. Hopefully he remembers. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But I don't have to rethink what laundry actually needs to get done because I automated it with this system. Another way you could do this is with meals. I know meal prep and meal creation for working parents like me can be really a struggle. So I created a meal rotation that just kind of repeats every week. So Monday was spaghetti, Tuesday tacos, as it should be because Taco Tuesday. Wednesday's quiche, Thursday leftovers, Friday pizza, Saturday and Sunday my husband cooks, and repeat. This has shifted a little bit in recent years where now my kids do some of the cooking. So the days are like Monday is Orlando, Tuesday is Reese, Wednesday is Mercedes, Thursday is leftovers, Friday is pizza, Saturday and Sunday my husband cooks. If you notice what I did there, I got myself out of all the cooking. It was like a ninja move and I'm really pretty proud of it. But realize that you could create a repeating meal plan. And if this feels restrictive to you, you could say, okay, Monday is pasta. There's like whole cookbooks just on pasta. You could have a million varieties of pasta. Tuesday could be soup. Again, millions of options within the realm of soup. Wednesday could be meatless Wednesday, although I feel like meatless should be Monday. You get what I'm going with here. You could create themes for each night if you need a little more variety, and that can be a way that you automate meal planning and you have to think less. I'm all about less thinking, less rethinking my thinks. So here's some other tasks that you could automate. Email, right? You could have a time of day, like I check email from 8:30 to 9 and then from 4:30 to 5, unless I'm expecting something specific. You can automate checking social media. Maybe you have social media check-in time at a certain time every day and that repeats, or just once a week, which for most social media is plenty to catch up on it. Exercise. I've automated a lot of exercise in my life by I link it with my lunchtime. I eat my lunch, I take my dog for a walk. In the morning, I walk my one son to school. That's exercise in the morning. And so it's kind of automated. I don't have to plan it. Signing up for an exercise class is another way to automate it. Watering plants. You can say, okay, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm watering the plants. I'm going to stick it in my calendar in the evening. That's when I'm going to do it. Calling family and friends. We often think about that as not something we would automate, but if you put this on a repeating reminder, especially you might have a friend going through something really difficult, which I've done this with friends going through divorce or illness. I put a reminder every Wednesday, call so-and-so. Every Wednesday, call so-and-so so that I remember to be a good friend. So automation, we sometimes can think is like cold and distant, but it's actually a way to allow us to put attention on some of those values or priorities that are often left behind if we don't create space for them in our schedules. A little tip, though, is just to pick one task to automate first. So don't try to automate your whole life at once. Just pick one thing that might have resonated with you, maybe email or laundry or meals or calling a friend. And once that's a habit, you can automate others, but don't try to overdo the automations at first. And then the last step of my process of minimize, organize, let go is to let go. And this is really an internal process because the hustle culture and the belief that we are equal to the amount of productivity we produce, that's a strong message that's probably not going to go away anytime soon. And it is up to us internally to release that. So letting go is an internal process. When we cling to our to-do list and we cling to our schedules and we think that the success of my day and the success of me as a human is how much of this I got done, we're always going to find ourselves lacking. So letting go is something we do inside. And one thing that can help us is to remember those 3 universal time truths, which are you always have enough time to do exactly what you want to do. I have to remind myself of this often. And when I give this presentation, I remind myself because I will find myself going into time victimhood, believing I don't have enough time to do all the things. And I have done this work and I have taught this to people and I still forget and have to remind myself, Rose, you have enough time to do exactly what you want to do. You're always doing something. Therefore, you're always doing exactly what you want to do. There's nothing that I want to do or is a higher priority for me more in my life at this moment than talking to you right now and sharing this information. You are getting the most precious thing that I have to give in the world, which is my time and attention. And so I'm owning that there are millions of other things I could be doing right now besides talking to you, but you are my top priority. And so I'm doing exactly what I want to do and I'm owning that. And can you feel how much more powerful that is than when we try to be in a moment and we let that moment be robbed by thinking about the things we're not doing? I want to point back to what we talked about at the beginning, which is I want to be able to sit down and relax without guilt. That's what this is about, right? You sitting down and saying, you know what? There are 1,000 other things I could do in this moment, but right now I'm going to stand and in my decision to sit down and relax and watch TV, I'm going to stand in my decision to lay down and close my eyes for 10 minutes. I'm going to stand in my decision to go for a walk without my phone so that I'm not distracted by notifications. When we own it and we say, this is what we're doing, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do, it can help us release that guilt because there's always going to be more options. There are more options for me right now, but I need to release them, let go of them, and recognize that right now I'm doing what I want to do. There's nothing I want to do more, and I'm going to take ownership for that. So the last point here is to let go of the belief that you need to do it all or that you aren't doing enough. And I think as women, I know this is a webinar series for women, this is really pervasive for women. We are even told, like, you can have it all, women do it all, moms do it all. And then the negative side of that is, well, if you aren't doing it all, you're not doing enough. And very quickly that becomes, well, if I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough. And I'm here to tell you very firmly today that you are doing enough. No matter what you're doing your best. You're doing enough and you are enough. We are born enough. We come into this world enough, and that never changes our whole lives. Nobody would look at a little baby, and if you've ever seen a little baby, you know that they don't do much besides eat, sleep, poop, and cry. No one would look at a baby and say, you know what, you're just not pulling your weight. Come on, bucko, let's buck it up. Let's do more. No, we're born worthy. We're born enough. We know that baby is enough. And that has never changed for any of us. You're still enough. And I think the only way we get there is we have to reclaim that ourselves, and we reclaim it inside. All right. If you want a little bit of help, if you want something that you can continue in conversation with me after this presentation. I do have a little challenge for you. It's free. It's a 30-day simplicity challenge. And if you want to screenshot this slide, feel free to. You can get that by texting the word simplicity to 773-770-4377. And just so you know, that's an email challenge. It's a 30-day challenge. And so you'll get one email a day from me for 30 days. They're short and sweet. Each email has a tip for you, and the tip will either be on decluttering your home, simplifying your work life, or calming your mind and creating more mindfulness. So if that's of interest to you, you can text to that number, the word simplicity, and you'll get it. If you want to continue the conversation with me, again, there's the free 30-day simplicity challenge that you're welcome to sign up for. If you like connecting on social media, you can find me on LinkedIn. I do have a Facebook group called Minimalism is Fun, and you are welcome to join us there. And if you're on Instagram, I have an Instagram profile, and it is at Rose Lounsbury. And you can follow me there and learn more. So I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure being here with you. I hope that you are walking away from this inspired. I think one of the reasons I used to teach time management classes and I stopped is because I felt like I actually had people walk away feeling overwhelmed, that they had more to do than when they walked in. And my goal with the presentation that I teach and the way I teach it now is that you walk away feeling inspired and empowered to take control of your schedule in a way that is simpler and nourishing for you and creates that more meaningful and intentional life that we're all seeking, that is full of the things that we highly value and that are really important to us. So thank you so much. And I'm going to open it up to questions.
Yeah, so we did have several come in. And again, if you have questions that you'd like to ask, please use the ask a question button below the video. So one person, and this question goes perfectly with it, ended up writing in their 3 priorities, and one of them was spending time with each child individually. So one of the questions that also came in was, how do you tackle, or how do you deal with like mommy guilt and carving out time with kids, especially with you having triplets?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think, first of all, the mommy guilt feeling is a real feeling, and I'm not immune to it. And I don't think any woman is immune to it. Just like anything, with creating intentional time for anything in our lives, including our kids, it's, do we actually create that time? And if you think back to that time block schedule, if you, or the red pen and pencil, which is my preferred version of time blocking, I put time in there. So like walking my son to school is a time that I talk with him, every morning. One of my boys at 13, I can't actually believe it, but he still wants to walk to school with me so we can talk in the mornings, which I will take as long as I can get it. So it's a part of my schedule that I write out, 7:30 to 8:15 every day, walk with Orlando to school. And so that's one of the things, is utilizing the tools that I have to create time for my family. And kind of like on a bigger or deeper level, just to share a little more about my story, one of the reasons that I left my teaching career, so I was a middle school English teacher, one of the reasons I left my teaching career is because I was feeling the tension to be more present with my family. My kids by then were like 4 or 5 years old. And I realized, I saw, while being a teacher is wonderful because you have the summers off and you have the breaks off, it actually was kind of inflexible in terms of being able to take my kids to doctor's appointments or being to volunteer at their school if I wanted to. That was something that was just not available for me because the teaching job is not a flexible job. And so I'm not saying quit your job, but I'm saying I've created space in my life for intentional time with my kids at like a micro level where, maybe I take a walk so I can talk with my kid. And kind of at a macro level where I actually shifted into a different type of career and started my own business so that I had the flexibility to be present with my family. And I realized that that option is not going to be available for everybody. I'm very blessed and privileged that that option was available to me. But I think no matter what your life situation is, if spending time with your children, and you said individually, is a priority, look at your schedule and even talk with your kids depending on the age that they are, and ask them, what would make you feel special? What would be a special time that you would want to have with just me? And it doesn't have to be, this huge trip to Kings Island every single time. My daughter at night, a lot of times she wants me to read her a poem. And so we have a book of poems from the library and we'll read a poem together, just me and her. And that's like 60 seconds to 2 minutes. It doesn't need to be something that is this huge block of time, but I think with kids, it's creating like intentional touch points. My other son likes me to go on his paper route with him. And so we'll go on the paper route and we'll talk. He talks about politics. He's really into changing the world. And so we'll have these discussions while I'm walking with him on his paper route. So I think one of the things that I'm realizing, even as I'm answering this question, is the way that I spend time with my children is different based on the personalities of my children. My son, who wants to talk about politics on the paper route, would not want me to walk with him to school. My boys would probably not really want me to read them poems at night. So maybe thinking about the personalities of your children and their natural flow, and how could you create a unique and special time that would nourish them and you? Because I'll tell you, and it's funny, my husband's a lawyer, so people with busy schedules, right? Lawyers have busy schedules. My daughter, we recently started sending her to a Montessori school as opposed to the public school for other reasons. But we have to drive her every day. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to drive her. This is going to be such a pain, right? It's such a problem as opposed to the public school that's right there. Well, one of the things my husband told me yesterday, which was her last day of school, he said, my favorite part of my day every day this year was driving her to school because I sang her a song every morning. And that like almost makes me a little emotional to think about. But he created a special time within the schedule. She's the only one who needs to get driven to school. So he created a special time with her that corresponded with something that he already had to do anyway. He could have looked at driving her to school as an imposition on his day, as a reason he doesn't get to the office till 9 o'clock. But he chose to look at it as an opportunity to connect with her one-on-one. And so I hope that in all of that answer, there's something that you can grab a hold of and use to make your life feel more meaningful. And I just want to thank you for the question. And also just know that this is a constant project for me to make sure that I'm creating time with my kids that's meaningful. And I'm not perfect at it either. Thanks.
So this one kind of falls in line with kids and family as well. But she said, I feel the weight of being the family historian, but have fallen behind documenting all of the things like baby books, photos. I don't want to keep kicking this down the road in fear I'd never pick it back up, and that it's more overwhelming as it piles up. Do you have any recommendations for tackling this sort of thing within your time management of your normal day-to-day life?
Yeah. So first of all, I think almost every mom that I know has felt that same way. When I started my business, I did in-home professional organizing, and I worked with a lot of women who had teenage kids or adult kids, and they still had unfinished baby books, and they were beating themselves up over this. And I was like, let it go, right? Those kids are grown-ups. They're going to have kids of their own soon. Like the baby book time, we can just let it go. And so I guess one of the phrases that I often say to people with this conundrum is, I would rather create memories than curate memories. And so what you're really talking about here is this desire to curate the memories, to make the scrapbooks or make the baby books or have the videos and everything lined up. And, that's all great. And the truth of it is some people enjoy doing that. Some people find joy from making photo books and they like, oh, there's nothing I want to do more than make the scrapbook. It's going to be so much fun. That's not the sense I'm getting from your question. To me, this sounds like a chore. It feels like an obligation. And so I'm going to encourage you to just let it go and focus on creating memories with your family as they are now. And if you do feel the need to have some type of relic of their childhood, I'm assuming you have some pictures somewhere. Could we just say that whatever you have, wherever it is good enough? And that it doesn't need to be any more organized than it is. Maybe you have pictures in shoeboxes or you have pictures on your phone. And could we just say, like, that's good enough? Like, we've got, if we want to see a picture of them when they were 2, it's available somewhere. We could go find it. And just start now with creating the memories and just like letting that completely go. Or if you do decide to do it, doing it in a way that's super simple, maybe saying, I'm just going to take all those pictures and put them in one shoebox, and we'll call it, Tyler's childhood. And it's done, right? I think there can be an additional stress that women especially put on themselves to curate the memories of their kids. And I think one of the reasons for that is, and this kind of goes back to the mommy guilt, is we sort of think that a curated collection from their childhood, and this may not be true for you, but I've felt it myself and seen it with other moms. A curated collection of scrapbooks from their childhood is proof that I love them enough. That if we save everything, and especially if we save it in a really chronological, easy to access order, that's the evidence that we were good parents, we were good mothers, and we love them enough. And the truth of the matter is, first of all, you're a good enough mother with or without the scrapbooks. And the thing that our children are going to remember about us is not how nicely we scrapbooked their first 3 years of life. They're going to remember how we made them feel. Did we pay attention to them? Did we listen to them? Those are the things that our children are going to remember. And the scrapbook really is negligible. It does not matter to your mothering if you have a scrapbook or not. So I hope that answer helps you maybe move forward in a way that feels more freeing in the situation. Thank you for the question.
That's a good reminder. And since we're getting close to our time, I will combine these last two questions into one. So someone said, how can we balance being responsible to ourselves and being responsible to others? And then the other question is somewhat similar because it's how to tackle perceived competing priorities without the guilt for not attending to one of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a 2-for-1.
That's a 2-for-1. I'll do my best. So I think a lot of this kind of comes back to those 3 time truths, which is sort of recognizing that we always have enough time to do exactly what we want to do. There are going to always also be other options out there of other things we could do. But if we spend our time thinking about the other things we could do, it actually makes us not present doing whatever we are doing in that moment. So I think what I'm hearing is, balancing the responsibilities for ourselves with the responsibilities for others. What I hear in that question is almost as if we feel that, and this is again a common thing that I have struggled with, and I know many women do, is that we might be giving our time too much to other people. Because the thing is, if we are giving ourselves what we need, and if we're filling ourselves up, and if we're taking care of ourselves, the time we give to others actually feels like we're giving freely. And I think it only becomes attention normally when we're not giving enough to ourselves. And I could be overgeneralizing because I don't know all the context of this question. But if you're feeling a real conflict between responsibility for others and responsibility for self, 99% of the time, I'm going to say you probably need to pay more attention to yourself. Because if you're paying more attention to yourself, if you're creating time for rest, for care, for hobbies that you enjoy, reading a book, watching TV, going for a walk, whatever you love, if that's present in your life, then the time you give to others will feel much more freely given. But I know for my own self, when I've resented giving my time to others, and believe me that I have, like resented the often, servitude that motherhood can feel like, or even your job could feel like that. If you start feeling resentful or angry at other people because they're taking your time, to me, that is always a sign that I need to look inward, and almost always a sign that I'm not giving myself something that I need. So hopefully that is a helpful answer. And with the competing priorities, which is a slightly different question, but similar, with the competing priorities, it's kind of that letting go of the myriad of other choices you could make in the moment so that you can make that one choice to be present with the people and the work that you're doing in that moment. And that is not easy, but it's also helpful just to become aware. Even in asking the question, I can tell that you're aware that this is a struggle. So if we just notice when that struggle happens, like, oh, I noticed that right now I'm wanting to be present with my kids, but I keep thinking about work email. Interesting. Just noticing that without judgment. When we become aware of that, that's when we can start to change the pattern. And so that would be my best advice for that. And hopefully that's helpful in getting you a little closer to being able to be more present in your moments.
That was perfect answer. So thank you. It looks like we are out of time for today. So thank you so much for your time today, Rose. It was truly a pleasure to talk to you. And I think you gave advice that we can all apply to our lives, whether for Miami women, not whatever, anyone can apply it to their lives. So thank you to all of you that tuned in and submitted questions as well. We did receive a lot of questions, so if we weren't able to get to yours, I apologize. We invite you to check out our other upcoming webinars by visiting alumlc.org/MiamiOH. And thank you again to you, Rose. Have a great rest of your day, and love and honor.